This month, I'm about to head off to my next international adventure. Something I've been wanting to do for 4 years now, Australia. This probably would have happened sooner, but with COVID, it had to be pushed back. This year, I'm making it happen. I'm going to Sydney and the Gold Coast, hitting 4 parks and riding 16 new coasters. These come in all shapes and sizes, so today, let's round them up and count them down. These are my top 10 most anticipated coasters in Australia. This is a top 10, but there's only 16 to choose from, so let's just take a minute to talk about the other 6. At Dreamworld, you got Kenny's Forest Flyer. This is an old school Vekoma hang and bang, opening in 2002, and even though it looks cool with a brown and green color scheme, these are usually bad news. This should be a one and done. Staying at Dreamworld, this is Moto Coaster, an Intamin family launch coaster. This is not like the new Intamin Strala coasters. These look like the Zamperla Moto Coaster, sitting on a motorcycle seat, and this one's got a very compact layout. The ones I've ridden are very spread out. This is less than 2,000 feet long, reaches a top speed of 45 miles an hour, so it may be fun, but I left it off my top 10. Going to Luna Park, this is Little Nipper, a Preston and Barbieri mini coaster. This is a lift hill, a spiral drop, and turn back into the station. Your only hope here is to ride in the back and get some crazy laterals. Going to SeaWorld, this is SpongeBob's Boating School Blast, a Zamperla gravity coaster. These are a dime a dozen, a drop, a helix, a turn back in the station, and if you're tall, good luck fitting in that train. Also at SeaWorld is Storm Coaster, a Mock Rides water coaster. This is the same one I rode at Jers Summerland, dipping into a brake run, then a swooping drop into another brake run, dropping into an airtime hill, and then the dreaded splashdown. This looks like it has some theming, which is nice, and Skatoon at Jers Summerland didn't get me that wet, so here's the hoping this is the same. Definitely a one and done. Last one, off to Warner Brothers Movie World. This is Roadrunner Roller Coaster, a Vekoma Junior coaster. This is a pretty legit family coaster, the same one they have at Tusenfryd, the same they have at Cedar Point, and I got to ride both of those last year. It rises up 43 feet, hits 28 miles an hour, covers 1,000 feet of track. It may not be that great, but at least it won't be that embarrassing to ride. Before we get started, if you can drop this video a like, I'd appreciate it. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to see more content like this, including my adventures in Australia, please give me a sub. Also, a couple channel plugs. First, Airtime Thrills raw footage. That was set up for other coaster YouTubers to find footage and use it copyright free. Also, Home Run Productions. That's where I talk about all things baseball, so if you love baseball, check that out. Number 10, Boomerang at Luna Park, a Gerstlauer shuttle family coaster. This has one exact clone, and it was a coaster I really enjoyed. Rewind Racers at Adventure City. It uses a chain to lift you backwards, 39.4 feet up, levels out, then drops you down, almost 600 feet of twists and turns, then rises up another spike, this one using booster wheels, then releases you back into the course, this time doing it all backwards. This was part of the big 3-coaster expansion at Luna Park in 2021, and given the lack of space, this was a really good addition. It was either this or Moto Coaster, and I chose the backwards elements over the tire launch. I'll see if that holds up after I ride both of them. Number 9, Jet Rescue at SeaWorld, an Intamin family launch coaster. I talked about Moto Coaster at Dreamworld. That's also an Intamin family launch with straddled seating, but this is the kind I'm used to. You sit on a jet ski, very low and close to the track, and the amazing thing about this is how low it stays to the ground. When you look at this layout, it doesn't rise up more than maybe 10 or 15 feet at any time. It weaves around the rocks, over the water, through the tunnels, and it may only hit 43.5 miles an hour, but I'm actually looking forward to this one. I love a good ride with quick transitions, and that looks like its main feature. Number 8, Wild Mouse at Luna Park, a Hopkins & Pierce wooden Wild Mouse. I've talked about this ride a few times on my videos about coasters that came back from the dead, but right now it's very much alive and I'm excited for it. I have never ridden a wooden Wild Mouse unless you count Devil's Den, and there are none operating in North America. In fact, there are only 2 others operating in the world, both in Indonesia. It has a very basic layout, but that's fine. You sit single file, 2 per car, whip around those curves, end with some airtime hills, and you get a great view of the harbor. This dates back to 1959, was relocated to another park for a couple decades, then made its way back to Luna Park in 1995. Now that I'm riding this, I see the ride's been down for a while and will be reopening this year, so chances are I'm gonna miss out on it, and that kinda sucks. Number 7, Big Dipper at Luna Park, an Intamin hot racer. This was the first of its kind, Intamin's first attempt at a single rail coaster, and it was the headline attraction of Luna Park's 2021 expansion. It starts with a tire-propelled launch, 45 miles an hour, up into a non-inverting loop, a sidewinder, and a corkscrew. And the way the non-inverting loop leads right into the sidewinder is pretty crazy. I'm not expecting this to be as good as an RMC Raptor, but it will be fun to ride a single rail with a launch, and maybe those elements will really pop. Another great thing I hope RMC takes note of, these just have lap bars. No shoulder straps needed, just your new age Intamin lap bar, and I think those are amazing. My hopes aren't high, but maybe it'll surprise me. Number 6, Gold Coaster at Dreamworld, an Aero Looper. This used to be at Luna Park, and it was moved here in 2001. It was first built in 1995, so it's somewhat a modern Aero Looper. It rises up 131 feet, turns around, and dives straight down. That should be an awesome drop in the back row. I'm thinking something like Vortex at Kings Island. I just hope the angle isn't too shallow to get any airtime. This has a pretty long layout, almost 3,000 feet of track, but only 2 inversions, a reverse sidewinder and a loop. That means there's a lot of twisting and turning without going upside down, and if done right, that can be really cool. This got new trains back in 2015, those new generation Vekoma trains with a vest restraint, so that's pretty restrictive, but should eliminate any headbanging this might have. It has a custom layout, it looks good, I just hope it packs a punch. Number 5, Green Lantern Coaster at Warner Bros. Movie World, an SNS El Loco. There aren't too many of these in the world, only 6 have been built, and after this, I will have ridden half of them. This is the definition of short but punchy, rising up 108 feet and starting with a 120.5 degree drop. That's the 3rd steepest in the world, and the great thing is, you only have a lap bar, no shoulder pads like you have on Steel Hog at Indiana Beach. This is just a straight lap bar, like El Loco at Adventure Dome. This looks very similar to Steel Hog, but this one's bigger, covering 1,600 feet of track, a hang-time-filled dive loop, and then a very cool inline twist while diving down. It's a twisted mess on a small footprint, and with all those wacky angles, no surprise, this was designed by Alan Schilke. Number 4, Leviathan at SeaWorld, a Gravity Group Woody. This just opened about a year ago, a large-scale wooden twister. It looks more like a GCI than a Gravity Group, but Gravity Group is known to make a compact twister. This uses Timberliner trains, very comfortable, good lap bars, but from my experience, those trains and that track means a rough ride. Hopefully, since this is new, that won't be the case. If you get the very back car, you get to ride this backwards, opening up a whole new experience, and something that's becoming more common on new rides, especially in Australia. 105 feet tall, 50 miles an hour, 3,281 feet of track. I'm hoping this wooden coaster delivers. Number 3, Steel Typan at Dreamworld, a mock rides launch coaster. If you've ridden Bluefire at Europa Park, this is pretty much the same thing, just with a twist. Instead of using a basic LSM launch, it uses a multi-pass launch, going forward, then backward up a twisted spike, and then launching into its main course, almost 4,000 feet long, 4 inversions, a loop, twisted horseshoe roll, and inline twist. I heard Bluefire wasn't the most exciting coaster, so my expectations aren't super high. I don't think it'll even be as good as Copperhead Strike, but there is one thing that I'm really looking forward to. On one of the trains, the back car spins. I'm hoping this train's in use when I go there. I love Time Traveler, and if you're going through a course like this while spinning, that could make for the best ride experience in Australia. My luck, it won't be available, but of all the special back car experiences in Australia, this is the one I'm most excited for. Number 2, Superman Escape at Warner Bros. Movie World, an Intamin accelerator. This dates back to 2005, one of those mid-scale but more dynamic accelerators. I had always been used to the ones that rip your face off, but those end before you can even take a breath. I got on some of the smaller ones this year and they were hit or miss. This one's not small, rising into a 131-foot top hat, reaching 62 miles an hour in 2 seconds, and then flying into a course of swooping turns and airtime hills. Though, this one has no inversions. Still, this has those Intamin over-the-shoulder restraints, and that's too bad, but it's not a deal breaker. This also has a really cool pre-show before the main launch, and that just adds to it. I'm skeptical, but optimistic about this one. Number 1, DC Rivals Hypercoaster at Warner Bros. Movie World, a mock rides hyper. You all knew this was number 1, and honestly, if it wasn't for this coaster, I probably wouldn't be making the trip to Australia. This is considered one of the best coasters in the world, standing 202 feet tall, starting with a twisted drop, a non-inverting loop, and a layout full of airtime hills and snappy turns, covering 4,600 feet of track and maxing out at 71.5 miles an hour. Everyone who's ridden it absolutely raves about it. My only concern is the lap bar. If it's anything like the ones on the other mocks that I've ridden, Helix, Copperhead Strike, those come down pretty hard, and it makes the airtime not that great. Regardless, this looks like a top 50 coaster. Most likely, the only one that will even crack my top 100 from this list, but anything in my top 4 has a shot. There's also the last car that rides backwards, and based on what I heard, that's one of the craziest experiences of all time. Dropping over 200 feet, twisting backwards, going that fast and not seeing where you're going. I don't care how much extra it costs, I gotta get a few rides back there. That's a wrap on this list. As you can see, there's not a big quantity of coasters here. 4 parks and 4 coasters per park, and that's assuming everything's open. It doesn't look good for the wild mouse. That's one reason this probably wasn't the best year to go to Australia. If I went next year, I probably could have ridden 8 coasters at Movie World instead of 4. They're in the process of building an Intamin Surf Rider, a clone of Dragonflyer, a dueling Vekoma family Boomerang, and they're refurbishing their Scooby-Doo Wild Mouse coaster, reopening in 2025. It would have been nice to ride them, but they'd just be credits since they're clones of other rides out there. There are a couple other coasters in Eastern Australia. If I really wanted to, I could have gone all the way down to Melbourne and picked up a few more credits. But the only one that's interesting is Scenic Railway at Luna Park, the 1912 wooden coaster that still uses a brakeman. I think I'm hitting the most important rides in Eastern Australia, even if it's not that many. And in addition to taking a day to explore Sydney, this should be an awesome trip. Let me know what you think of this list. Which coasters look the most interesting to you? And if you've ridden any of these, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to drop a like, and give me a sub if you want to see my final verdict on these coasters. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.